Greetings and welcome to the lecture for Chapter 9. This is the lecture on social work with older adults, also known as social work with the elderly. Chapter 9 in the first edition, the fifth edition. The impact of the industrial age, elderly became less valued for their wisdom and experience. What happened is with time, with the urban development and the separation of families, there was seen as less of a family unit, less of responsibility for the younger generation to take care of the older generation. Early social workers worked with elderly in their homes and in institutions to alleviate social problems. During the Depression, it highlighted poverty amongst the elderly and led to the creation of the Social Security Act in 1935. The AARP has become a formidable advocate for the needs of the elderly. Social workers can specialize in work with elderly and earn the NASW gerontology credentials. It's important to note that most of your elderly care facilities, or what is known as a lot of times called old folks home, rehab centers, are required by DFPS, Department of Family and Protective Services. They're required to have a social worker on staff to come up with activities, to come up with different types of access for social services, to make sure that there's some type of interaction for those who may not have family to care for them or family to look out for them. Oftentimes a social worker will be there to look after those who are elderly. The profile of older Americans is 65 plus, over 12% of the population. 50% live in only 9 states of the elderly. Almost 50% of women are widowed. Elderly women are widowed. 19% of men and about 9% of women are employed after the age of 65. More than 10% live in poverty. And 40% of African American and Hispanic women live in poverty. 90% rely on Social Security benefits as their main source of income. Okay, profile of older Americans. 50% of those institutions suffer from Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is the loss of memory, and the elderly care homes that we talked about earlier are in most cases going to have some type of dementia wing or some type of elderly care wing in order to some specialized care part of their facility for those who may be suffering with Alzheimer's or dementia. 4.9 million have Alzheimer's disease. 80% own their own homes. Of these, 1/3 spend 25% of their income on housing. There's a lot of different types of housing now. It's not just elderly care homes. There's elderly care communities. There's entire buildings, residential care buildings where the elderly will live in their own apartment or their own separate quarters, but then have shared laundry facilities or shared dining halls and such like that. Most of your elderly have at least one chronic health condition. 27.3 of those living in the community have difficulty with activities and of daily living, and that's why it's called assisted care. So families provide 75% of personal care. Ethnicity affects lifespan expectations. Now, we have a terminology in today's society called sandwich generation. That's the generation that's in between. They have their own children, and they're in between, and they're taking care of their parents as well. So they're seen as taking care of their parents and their children, which causes them to be the sandwich generation. Social work with families of older adults. A social worker is going to employ strengths perspective to redefine the roles and expectations. Older adults care for spouses, siblings, and grandchildren, which is what we talk about, where some cultures it's more specific, where the younger kids will take in, or the adult children will take in their parents at a certain age, and the parents will be there to help care for their children. And families require support for the care of both older adults and children simultaneously. Oftentimes there'll be some type of home health care or some type of hospice care, or even just general personal care, people that'll come in and help to take care of both the elderly, older adults, and the children simultaneously. Social workers offer families case management, support groups, stress management, parenting education, respite care, adoption support, advocacy information, and abuse investigation and monitoring. Empowering diverse older adults. Minority groups are vulnerable to poverty. Social workers work within the cultural context of the family within their community. Social workers are going to meet the family where they are from their cultural perspective. Social workers use the strengths perspective, encouraging prevention approach, being able to find out different strengths and areas to help where the families are in need. Homosexual men and women are likely to have very different perspectives on growing older. Encourage older adults to engage with advocacy groups like ARP and the Grey Panthers, groups that they can enroll in and become a part of to have some type of outlet. In 1935, the Social Security Administration provided for pension insurance. In 2006, Pension Protection Act requires employers who offer pensions to fully fund them, just over 20% of companies. Now we see the formation of annuities, tax-sheltered annuities offer opportunities to save for retirement, but are subject to stock market risks. Like we saw, a lot of people would say that they lost their entire retirement with the crash of 2008. By 2017, the income from Social Security taxes will be less than the benefits paid out. And if you're paying attention to the current political spectrum right now, both the debates with President Obama and Governor Romney have both speculated on what their platforms would do or how they would deal with this crisis of funding running out for Social Security. By 2040, Social Security taxes will only cover 70% of the benefits owed. What that means is there'll be more money going out that's coming in, which would cause it to be bankrupt. Social Security taxes are only paid on annual income up to $90,000. Housing assistance has been reduced by block grants. And when a long-term care Medicaid beneficiary dies, states will likely sell the family home to recover the cost. So that's why social workers are going to be vital in helping to make sure that the rights of the elderly are protected through these different platform changes, regardless of which political group comes to power this time. There's still going to be a need for lobbying to ensure the safety of the Social Security. In 1965, the Older Americans Act established the Administration on Aging, which is there for information and referral, transportation, in-home assistance, legal services, nursing home ombudsman programs, nutrition programs, and support services for family givers. And this starts on the national level. What you're going to see is that this starts with national grants, and their national grants will go to states, and in the states that money will filter down to the areas of most need. Of course, Harris County, the greater Houston metro area, being the largest county in the state of Texas. The continuum of care is from anywhere from in-home services that allow them to remain in their homes, oftentimes unless dementia or something becomes very out of control. If they have family members that will begin to wander off, if you see on the Amber Alerts, on occasion you'll see on Amber Alerts that an elderly couple has been lost. That will happen because of Alzheimer's. And so when community services are appropriate, they are there to allow the older adults to remain in their familiar community. Although if their symptoms become more severe, then they would need assisted living and special housing programs, which allow adults some independence but access to skilled medical care. And then, of course, finally, nursing homes provide the level of care needed to recover from serious injury or illness and provide long-term care when needed. These are facilities that have a full medical team, doctors, nurses, and 24-hour care and access. End-of-life issues. Social workers may discuss spiritual issues with older adults and need to be conscious of their own beliefs and values. Existential approach or theory would be of highly value to the social worker. Social workers teach relaxation and meditation to facilitate self-care. Some states have policies and procedures related to self-determination for those who are terminally ill, or which that means anyone who's predicted to die within 6 months. 43 states offer hospice services, including medical care, counseling for patients and families, and bereavement services. And hospice care is seen as the best alternative to placing a loved one into assisted care, assisted facility, and it's also a less expense to the medical care or to the insurance company. So hospice is now the more proven and chosen type of service for those who become terminally ill, and they will bring in the hospital bed, and they'll actually have the person's home bedroom set up in more of a medical mode in order to allow the person to have their final days in their home. That concludes this lecture. I'll see you in the next one.